I hope that everyone who wanted to join joined. And right now we are going towards the fortress, and you can see everything that is covered with snow actually is a river that is surrounding the fortress. It's the Neva River. And you can see over there, there is a bridge. Please show the bridge a little bit closer. So the bridge is called the Trinity Bridge, and it was designed and built by the famous Eiffel, who actually built the Eiffel Tower. It was a very nice gift from France to Russia on our anniversary in 1903. Yeah, so that's not an old bridge, but the bridge I'm crossing now actually is one of the oldest. And right now we are heading towards the oldest gate of St. Petersburg, literally. Meanwhile, you can see the fortress walls. At this side, they are all covered with brick. And again, everything that you can see on this side that is covered with snow, actually it's land. And in summertime, we have here a really wonderful public beach. Yes, people come here and sunbathe. I will show you some more territories where we have our public beach, but a very interesting beach, but it will be a little bit later. Meanwhile, we are going to enter the oldest gate of St. Petersburg. As you see on top, it's written 1740. Yeah, that's what it was built. And please have a look. The walls are really thick. They're about 20 meters. 20 meters, yeah, but actually the outer wall is about 6 meters. The inner is 4, and in between, we have a special territory with some rooms where soldiers lived and where everyone stored cannons. Then have a look. We have here some really funny rabbits. One rabbit over here. So the thing is that we are now on the Rabbit's Island. On the Rabbit's Island. That legend says that when Peter the Great tried to find a suitable place for his fortress to protect these lands that he got, during the war, then he found that this island is really small. It's at the delta of the Neva River, so it's really comfortable. But when he stepped on a bush on this island, a rabbit ran away from under his feet, and he said some dirty words, something like, well, I think I won't say it, but then he said, "What the rabbit's island?" And the legend says that's when this name appeared. Yeah, the Rabbit's Island is the smallest island among all the islands that we have. In Peter's time, there were like 150 islands, and right now only 42, but still is the smallest. And before we enter the main territory, because we are still not on the main territory of the fortress, I will show you the map and share with you a very interesting story about this fortress. As you see, Peter the Great invited Trezzini, the Italian architect, to build one of the best fortresses of the 18th century. Yeah, it was the best one. You see, it's on an island surrounded by the Neva River. On top, there is a structure, something like a crown. It's called Kronwerk. It's an additional structure to protect our city from the mainland. And you see the territory of the fortress. So, I told you, this is the best fortress of the 18th century. So, a question for you. What do you think? How many times was this fortress attacked? So please share your answers with me. What do you think? And we will check if you guess. Yeah, so you see the fortress is really small. In the middle there is a cathedral. Anyway, aha. So you said 5 times, 0 times. Wonderful. So the ones who said 0, that's the right answer. Well, why? How come? You see, the Neva River is a river in between the Baltic Sea and the Ladoga Lake. So there was one more fortress to protect these lands, and that's why that fortress was always attacked. Meanwhile, this one, well, it was never reached by any enemy. It was built in 1703 and never used as a fortress. So it's quite a funny fact. Okay, so wonderful. Right now, we are heading towards this beautiful gate. Yeah, and this is not that old. It's decorated with the double-headed eagle. Double-headed eagle is one of the symbols of Russia. So again, one more question. What do you think? Where from this double-headed eagle comes? Which country does it come from? Do you have any ideas? Yeah? Okay, a small poll for you at the very beginning. Let's see. Poll in the progress. Meanwhile, I can tell you that these two statues symbolize wisdom of Peter the Great and highly qualified military skills of Peter the Great. Yeah, so they were exceptionally wonderful. Okay, let's check. What do we have? So Roman Empire, wonderful. So, oh, there was no sound, sorry, strange. So the story is that the Roman Empire had 2 parts, hence 2 heads of the double-headed eagle. Then the Roman Empire was destroyed by the barbarians, and then the symbol was taken by the Byzantine Empire. After that, the Byzantine Empire was attacked by the Turkish armies, and that's why, actually, later on, the niece of the last Byzantine emperor had to escape to Russia, and she married Ivan III. Her son, Ivan the Terrible, yeah, the one, Ivan the Terrible, became the first Tsar of Russia. It comes from the word Caesar, Tsar, Caesar. So that's why we say that Moscow is the 3rd Rome after Constantinople and actually Rome itself. So we're exceptionally proud about it. Okay, dear friends, we will be entering right now so you see this, this wonderful rabbit again. Rabbits are everywhere, funny statues of rabbits. Then we have this gray building, which was storage for cannons and cannon powder. And this peach color building is quite unique. It also belonged to the military staff that lived in the fortress. But why it's so unique? You see this architectural style. You will never see this architectural style anywhere except St. Petersburg, Russia. Trezini, the first architect of St. Petersburg, decided to design a special style for 3 types of buildings. Buildings for poor people, buildings for middle class, and it's a typical building for the middle class. And later on, I will show you a typical building of the noble people. This style is called Peter's Baroque. Peter's Baroque, designed specially for St. Petersburg and only for St. Petersburg. Again, you will never, ever see it anywhere except St. Petersburg. Okay, dear friends, I would like to ask you, we have now two options where to go. So we can go to the Cathedral Square and see the main buildings there, or we can go to the mysterious gates, which are called the Gates of Death, and I will share with you some stories about it, and the famous cannon. So what would you like? Let's decide. Let's decide. Okay. Let's have a look. Cannon and Mysterious Gates. Okay, most people decided to go to the Cannon and Mysterious Gates. So while we are going there, I can tell you a funny story about the fortress. You see, nowadays it's a museum, and actually it's full of different types of museums. So there is a cathedral, the boathouse we will see later, the museum of different like Leonardo da Vinci stuff and so on, so many things. But till 1970s, people lived here. You know, it's a funny fact, but our Russian ID is really different from your ID. And usually we have there, yeah, that's how it looked like. And inside, usually the government puts a stamp with a registration mark. And till 1970s, some people used to have a quite funny stamp, registration address, Fortress Building Number 1. Peter Paul Fortress Building Number 1. Yeah. So as you see, quite funny. So meanwhile, I almost reached the Gate of Death. Yeah, well, actually, the real name. Yeah, by the way, the question is, would you like to live in a fortress? I know now it's a museum, but well, there are some famous buildings. So, share, please, your opinion about that while we are reaching the Gate of Death. Its official name is the Neva Gates, because it faces the Neva River, and right now we go through the gate and you will enjoy the beauty of our main river. But why is it called the Gates of Death? Aha, poll results. Let me check the poll results. Rather not. Okay, I see. That's rather not. Well, it could be a one-day experience, right? So let's have a look from this side. So the gates were used for the prisoners to come into the fortress. So usually it was done by night. They were with their faces covered because it was not allowed to see their faces. They were top secret prisoners. Only 3 people in Russia could know their names and their faces: the head of the police, the emperor, and the commandant of the fortress. So they came via this gate because they came by boat. And then, well, yes, you can see that's how it looked like in the 19th century. Yeah, the prisoners came, and then the same happened at night. When they were dead, they could leave the fortress by this gate only at night. When they were dead, executed, let's say. Okay, let's enjoy the beauty, the wonderful beauty of the Neva River. You see, some people are walking over there far away. Yeah, but actually it's forbidden. Forbidden because it might be dangerous, or the surface of the river is, well, the ice is not that thick anymore like it was, let's say, at the beginning of the 20th century. But there is a funny fact about the river. You see, it is quite short. It flows from the Ladoga Lake into the Baltic Sea. Only from April to October it's navigable. In wintertime, usually it's covered with ice. There are sometimes icebreakers, but not so usually. And there is a very funny fact about the tram. Would you like me to share with you Yeah, that's how it looks like in summer. Would you like me to share with you the story about the tram in St. Petersburg? By the way, the tram in St. Petersburg is one of the oldest is one of the oldest in Russia. Let's check if you're curious about it. And I can tell you, meanwhile, you're using the poll. Yeah, so let's check. Probably yes. Okay, you're curious. Then I will show you first the first story and then the second. So please show the tram. I would like to show the tram. So at the beginning of the 20th century, the lobby of the carriages and coaches was extremely strong. And the lobby didn't want the trams to come into the city. That's why they paid a lot of money to the government, and trams were not allowed to the streets of the city. Yes, that was the official law. The trams are not allowed to the streets of the city. The guy who owned the tram company was smart enough, so he decided to put tramways right on the surface of the river, because it was extremely cold, so it was like minus 30, minus 20, it was possible. And people in winter love the tram so much that they decided to ask the tram to come to the streets of St. Petersburg. And the guy won. The lobby of the carriages and coaches was defeated. Yeah. Of course, it's too far away, but yes, right here. Yeah, that's about the trams. Right over there, you can see the Hermitage Museum, and one of the parts of it, it's called the Winter Palace. It's like a labyrinth, more than 1,000 rooms, and if you spend just 1 minute looking at each exhibit on display, you will spend there, oh my goodness, 7 or 8 years. That's what people of the Hermitage say. One more story about the fortress and these walls. Actually, people come here to sunbathe from March. You believe me? Yeah, that's how it looked like. So the thing is that in St. Petersburg, we have only 60 sunny days per year, and we try to use each single sunny day. You see these crazy people? You see the crazy people? Well, they are not crazy. Actually, the walls are warm enough when you lean on the walls. Nevertheless, they are all surrounded by snow. It's not cold while you're leaning on the surface of these wonderful walls. Okay, so let's go back to the fortress, and I have a question for you. You know, St. Petersburg was founded in 1703. So we are like 317 years old. And there is one natural disaster we suffered from 288 times. So a question for you, what do you think? What kind of disaster is that? While you are filling in the poll, I'm going to that very monument, let's say, that shows us what kind of disaster. Really? You love the grade A's option? Okay, flood. I see that most of you said it's flood. That's right. So you see, there is a meter and there are some plaques. So the most disastrous floods were the one on the bottom, white one, it's 1777. The black ones show the mark of 1924, and the highest is this one. So for you to understand, if I were here, it would reach my nose level. Please show me the pictures of what it looked like when it happened in St. Petersburg. Yeah, 288 times we suffered from disastrous floods. Many buildings were destroyed, people died, and even my mom still remembers when she was walking on the streets and the water was up to her knee level sometimes. But right now we are happy to announce we have no more floods, because now we have the best dam in the world that protects us. Yes, this dam is closed each time when we have strong wind. The strong wind comes from the Baltic Sea, when there is a difference in air pressure. And that's why the current in the Neva is stopped, because Neva flows into the Baltics. And then the gates are closed, and that's why we have no more floods. But people say that if we had the most disasters in 1824 and 1924, we might still have something in 2024, who knows? Okay, so one more part, which is famous, and usually every day at 12 o'clock, hundreds of people stand right here. They're waiting for something. Yes, that's what it looks like. Yes. And everybody is waiting for the cannon to shoot. It's a special cannon. Well, it's on top of the walls, and it's a big honor. It's a big honor to shoot from the cannon. The tradition was established by Peter the Great. Not far away from here, there was a shipyard. And of course, people of the 18th century didn't know when is the lunchtime, because they didn't have any watches or clocks. And Peter the Great said, okay, 12 o'clock lunchtime. And that's how it was. But we love Peter the Great. We love his traditions. And that's why we still have it. At noon, well, people usually don't know how loud is the shooting, and that's why, well, I saw myself a long line to the WC after the shooting, because some people might be really afraid of the sound. One more thing over here is a flag. Yeah, it might be something like a British one, but it's not a British flag. Actually, is a Russian naval flag. It's the Russian naval flag. Yeah, well, it's flying over the fortress. Right. Okay, dear friends, we are going towards... Yeah, by the way, the question is, what do you think, what time is the lunchtime now in Russia? So we used to have it at 12. Let's compare to your countries, because it might be different, really. For you to understand, our offices start to work at 9 or 10. And we usually finish at 6 or 7. Okay, the results are okay. Most people think it's at 1 o'clock. That's right. From 1 to 2, most people go for lunch. Okay, wonderful. Your knowledge of Russia is really wonderful. Let's see one. Yes, these are the bells. We will hear some more bells a little bit later, because we are not near the cathedral, but in 15 minutes we definitely will be there, and you will hear the bells again. Meanwhile, I want to show you the most dangerous, mysterious, unhappy place of the fortress before we continue to the cathedral square. It's the prison. So you see, beginning from 1712, there used to be a prison on the territory of the fortress. You see, the prison usually changed its place. Okay, let's stop at this picture. You see, actually, these were more than 100 cells for the solitary confinement. For the first 5 years, the prisoners were not allowed to leave. To leave their cell. This was the cell. Yeah, they were not allowed to talk to each other. The only book they could read was the Bible. So that's why they invented a tapping alphabet to speak to each other, because it was very, very uncomfortable to live alone for such a long time, and some people spend there several years. So you can see the entrance. The prison was here beginning from 1870s. Oh, okay, somebody was there. Okay. Well, after 5 years, if they could still be alive and, let's say, not crazy, because many people became crazy, they could leave their cell, they could go to the library. Some prisoners even learned several languages. They could have their small vegetable garden, they could go to the sauna, but only after 5 years. So that's the entrance, yes, and some really famous people who were there were a brother of Lenin, who was a terrorist. He spent in the prison like 1.5 years, and then he was executed. And one more famous gentleman, I'm pretty sure you know him, was Dostoevsky, the author of Crime and Punishment. Would you like me to tell you how come this great writer Dostoevsky got into the prison? If you want, just put a plus into the chat, or yeah, let's have a look at better poll. A poll, yeah. Let's see if you're curious enough to know how come this great man became a gangster or whatever. Okay, everybody's curious. I love it. So the thing is that Dostoevsky loved to go into the public, see people, learn about people's character, and that's how he wrote his books. So he was interested in different characters, in different classes of people, and everything he wrote actually existed. So once he decided to join a political club of youngsters and noble people, they discussed, of course, different political things and the changes of the political system. But what he loved about it, he loved to see the characters of his future books. But he didn't really share the political opinion of the guys of this club. But when it came to the arrest, the police didn't care so much if he discussed the political system or not. They just arrested him. And they arrested him like the others and sent him to Siberia. That's why he fell in love with the Bible book, because he was allowed to read only the Bible book. And that's why some of his famous novels are affected by Siberia and this experience. Okay, dear friends, here we are going to the cathedral square, the main square of this fortress. You can already see the beauty of the cathedral, which is one of the oldest buildings. But I will start with a different thing. I will start with St. Petersburg becoming the capital of Russia. You see, now Moscow is the capital. It used to be the capital before 1712. So for like 210 years, it used to be the capital of Russia. So how come Peter the Great decided to move it here? When did it happen? You see, this is the mint. Mint, it's a special enterprise where money is printed, coins. The mint was transferred from Moscow to St. Petersburg in 1712, and that's how we became the capital of Russia. Now the mint is still working, but it prints only memorial coins and something like this, yes, and orders. There is a nice museum of the mint and also a souvenir store, so if you ever decide to come to the fortress, you will be able to visit it. Okay, what you can see right there is a boathouse. That's a yellow house with a lady on top. It was built specially for the famous boat of Peter the Great, because Peter the Great is supposed to be the father of the Russian fleet. Before Peter the Great, okay, let's stop at this picture. Yeah, Peter the Great, when he was born in Moscow, he knew that Russia is landlocked. And once he found a very nice English boat. That's how it looked like, near the palace where he lived. And the legend says that he used to learn how to sail with this boat. He became also a carpenter during his visit to Europe. So he really fell in love with fleet. He was like crazy about water and sea and oceans, because he could stare at the sea for hours, just standing at the embankment, and that's it. It was enough for him. Yeah, and the original boat used to be in the boathouse. Now it's in the Naval Museum. Okay, let's have a look at the most beautiful part of the fortress. It's our cathedral. Yes, the cathedral was built in 1730s by the same architect Trizini. Yeah, originally it was made of wood, that's why it suffered from fire several times, but then at long last it was rebuilt in stone, and you see how it looks like. It's one of the highest architectural points of St. Petersburg. It used to be the highest, but now we have a tower belonging to the main gas and oil companies higher than this cathedral. The cathedral is 125.5 meters high. Yes, this structure is the highest now, and not many St. Petersburgers like it because they say it's actually very, very ugly. Okay, what I want you to know about the cathedral is that what is situated on top. Please show me the angel, because now it's not visible so much. Because it's a weather vane. It's a weather vane on top of the cathedral. Yeah, and there is a very funny legend connected to it. So for you to understand what I mean, I need to show you myself. So the thing is that in the 19th century, the angel declined, and our Tsar was very unhappy about it. And there was one guy who managed to climb up without scaffoldings and repair the angel. And the Tsar, he gave a note that he could go to any pub and restaurant of Russia and could have any amount of alcohol for free, and gave him some money. Of course, the guy, he lost the paper. And the legend says that the emperor made a tattoo on his neck right here, saying the same thing that was in the note. And that's why, comparing to your countries, we show that we want to drink alcohol in a different way than you. We show it like this. So this gesture comes from the gesture of the guy showing his tattoo on the neck. So now you know what to show to Russians if you want to drink, for them to understand you well. Oh, really? You never knew that? Okay, that's interesting. Oops. Okay, I need to share the screen another way. Okay. So one more important thing about the cathedral is that it's a burial place of all our emperors, beginning from Peter the Great to Nicholas II, the last emperor. Okay, the cathedral was very strange for the people of that time, because you see its beauty is huge. It's more like a European cathedral. Russian churches are very small. They are dark. They are kind of, with low ceilings, with the darkness inside, lots of icons. Please show a couple more pictures. I will show you what's inside. It looks like a gala hall. You see, no icons, very high ceiling, huge windows. It's like a gala hall. And people of that time, of the 18th century, they came inside and said, like, what's going on? It's really strange. They were not used to it. Okay, so the burial place, like in London, Westminster Abbey, I suppose that's where you have all the emperors, right? We have them here. Peter the Great was the first one to be buried, his wife, and then his all relatives, and Nicholas II as well. All the tombs are under the white Carrara marble, And there are two special tombs. You see the red one and the dark green one. They belong to the Emperor Alexander II and his wife. Alexander II is kind of a Russian martyr. He died because of the attack of a terrorist. A bomb was thrown into his carriage. His wife died naturally, but anyway, these two tombs show us that better not do it. Okay, so actually inside the cathedral, we had not enough space to bury all the Grand Dukes and Grand Duchesses, and that's why an additional structure was built. It's called the Grand Duke's Burial Vault, and in a moment I will show you its dome. It's actually, it resembles the one of the cathedral. You see the brown dome appearing right there. Yeah, that's the Grand Duke Burial Vault. Unfortunately, the Bolsheviks destroyed more than half of the burials, so right now it's under constant reconstruction. And you remember at the beginning I promised to show you the typical house of the nobleman of Peter's time. So what do you see here is a two-storied building. It's the commandant's house. The commandant was very important because it was a lifetime position, and he was one of 3 people who could know the names of the prisoners. It's more like, you know, a Roman house, because inside in the middle there is a very nice yard, and there could be a fountain even, like in Rome. So it's a two-storied luxury building for noble people. Okay, right now there is one more thing I want to show you. Peter the Great, and share funny stories about Peter the Great. Maybe some of you saw the post on Facebook where I wrote an interesting legend about Peter the Great. Please ask about the photo. Yeah? Okay, young Peter the Great. Okay, let's stop at this face. Have a look at him. Young Peter the Great, when his sister was on throne, decided to go to Europe and learn something new. He spent in Europe about 1 year together with his friends, and out of more than 20 people, just him and 1 more of his friends came back. The others kind of disappeared or died or whatever. And the relatives of Peter, the friends of Peter, and politicians couldn't even imagine that Peter could change within 1 year so much. So you see, roundish face. He was of middle height. And of course, he knew almost every quarter hour. Enjoy the sound. The chimes, the clocks are from Netherlands. Oh, you couldn't hear me? From which part? Did you hear my story about Peter? Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, can you come back to the face of Peter? Okay, so Peter the Great, with his roundish face. Young Peter, when his sister was on the throne, he went to Europe, to England, France, Netherlands. That's when he learned a lot of stuff from Europe, because Russia was kind of old. And after visiting Europe, he changed very much. He could hardly remember Russian. He was with a roundish face, then his face became prolonged. He was of medium height, and he became very tall, about 2 meters. And he forgot all the Russian traditions. So relatives and friends couldn't believe that it was him when he came back. He was so different. Well, let's have a look now at the statue. Yeah, so the statue of Peter the Great, as you see, he became very tall. He had small legs. He always covered with the boots. He had huge hands. He had really a small head and narrow shoulders. That's what he looked like. Because this statue is made according to his burial mask. So let's compare with the Peter I showed you before. What do you think? Was Peter the Great stolen by someone in Europe? A new prisoner who appeared, and he was a really strange prisoner because his face was covered with iron mask. He was treated like a nobleman, and nobody knew who he was. Anyway, I would like to share with you. So half of you believe he was stolen, half of you believe that's real. Peter the Great. So the thing is that Peter, and again, I would like to go back to the picture of Peter the Great. Again, let's have a look at this face, and I want to tell you how he changed our life. Okay, dear friends. So this gentleman, a strange gentleman who came from Europe, he changed our life dramatically. He changed the economical, political, military system. He founded Russian fleet. We can't imagine some things, our life without some things that he brought to Russia. He brought to Russia minutes. Yeah, we had only hours. He brought to Russia forks. Yes, before him, we had only spoons and knives. He brought a European costume. He ordered to cut off the beards because the traditional appearance of a man in Russia, that's when a man has a beard. Peter the Great established a European tradition, European costumes. And he brought new furniture because before Peter the Great, we had only that's not him. Actually, Peter the Great didn't call himself Peter the Great. Others started to call him Peter the Great. He brought us different types of furniture because before him we had only tables, chests of drawers, and boxes. Like boxes for storage. And he brought us, sofas, beds, cupboards, all that stuff. Yeah. And I want to share with you some funny facts about private life of Peter the Great, like I promised. So you see, Peter the Great had a wife before he came back from Europe. And after he came back from Europe, he sent her to the nunnery, not to see her anymore. And he fell in love with another woman, and they had kids, 2 kids. One of them became our empress. But some, resources say that he had 300 unofficial children. Yes, his love life was very intriguing, and some people even say that he was bisexual. Yeah, some sources say. So he had a very interesting life, and he had enough time for the politics and for his private life. One of the reasons why he died was his love to lots of different women and to alcohol. These 2 things dramatically changed his health, and that's why he had some problems with the bladder, and that's why he died. Well, dear friends, actually, I showed you all the most interesting things of the fortress, and I shared with you many interesting facts about the life here and about Peter the Great. We are starting to finish our tour, and first question, do you have any questions to me? Do you want me to tell anything about the fortress, about Russia, about Peter, whatsoever? So please write me if you're curious about something else. I will be really glad to answer all your questions. Yeah. Maybe, you know, well, well, I believe myself that that's still Peter the Great, that he was not substituted, but it's just my private opinion. You can find different facts. Yeah, there are different facts. Well, you see, the citizens of Russia of that time, they were not so close to the Tsar, but those of his relatives and friends who didn't believe the fact that's real Peter, they disappeared or died all of a sudden. His sister was sent to the nunnery, the wife was sent to the nunnery. Very strange, right? After his visit to Europe, only 1 year changed him so much. I want to share with you one funny fact about Peter while you're still writing the questions. You know, Peter brought us potatoes. There is a very similar story in Europe about the potatoes, so I believe it's the same origin, but still, the way Peter showed it. So Peter the Great brought potatoes to Russia, and people didn't know what part of the potato to eat. They didn't want to grow potatoes. They didn't know flowers, roots, leaves, what to eat. You know, the noble women of the time used the flowers of the potatoes to decorate their dresses during the balls. But Peter the Great was smart enough. So first he tried to sell potatoes, didn't work. Then he tried to give it for free, didn't work. But he was smart. So near his residence, he put a big vegetable garden with the potatoes, and he actually surrounded it with the fence, and the guardians like pretended to be asleep during the night, and the different people from the surrounding territories came to steal potatoes because they thought, okay, if something is surrounded by the guardians and fence, it must be something important, great, expensive. So they stole potatoes and started to grow them at their vegetable gardens. So that's how Russians started to grow potatoes and started to eat. Russian, yeah, that's very smart. I didn't see the question about the Russians and Dutch. We have a lot of connection between Russia, between Russian language and Dutch language, because many words were brought by Peter and in Peter's time and a little bit later on from the Netherlands, especially the ones which are connected to the naval life. Actually, Peter spent a lot of time in the Netherlands, became a carpenter, and he loved the Netherlands. How come we have only 40 islands? Meanwhile, at the beginning, we had 150. Well, many of them were joined up. For example, there is one island, which is now one, but if you look at the map, these are three. And so on and so on. So we just join them up. Yeah, that's how we have it. Okay, some more questions? Okay, great questions. Yeah, thank you. Okay, one more thing I want to ask you. During this tour, did you have a mood of real trip, of the real excursion? Because you see, we are sitting tours, so you were not traveling like you used to travel. You were sitting at home and traveling with me with the help of Zoom and the camera. Did you feel that you were at the real excursion? Please write one into the chat if you did. Okay, yes, for sure. Cole. Wow, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. Do you think that after this visit to the fortress and to St. Petersburg with me, do you think that you would decide to come to St. Petersburg once the boundaries are open one day? So, did I make you fall in love with the St. Petersburg? Okay, I see. So many of you would love to. Wonderful. I'm really glad. And did you have a feeling that we're together doing something? Yeah, because we were together. Filling in the form, the poll, we were deciding where to go. You were answering the questions. So did you have a feeling? Yeah, it's interactive. Wonderful, wonderful. Mm-hmm. I'm really, really, really glad about it. Well, dear friends, actually, this is our first project. How? Oh, it's a pity. It's a pity that you couldn't go last year. Ah, it's very cool that you got to know about many things. So you see, it's our first project. We call it free seating tour. It's absolutely free for you, and the thing is that we would love to continue. So if you feel like you really loved the excursion, if you love this style, if you felt like you are here, we will be very glad to get any kind of donation from you, just any, for us to continue this wonderful project and for us to get inspiration. Yes, so the thing is that after the tour, you will get an email with two links. First link will be to the video. So you could share this video of the tour with your friends, and there will be a link for the donation if you would love to say thank you to us. If we see that you are interested in it, because we will also have a link to the survey in the email, then we will organize it again. I saw that you wrote you want to see the city in spring. So if you want us to continue, please fill in the survey. That means that you're interested in our project, and I will be really glad to share more stories with you. My heart is full of love and gratitude to you. Gratitude. And some Russian girls want to be part of our tour too. I'm really glad that you spent this 1 hour with us. I hope that you fell in love with Russia, with St. Petersburg, and I would love to show more. Of course, it depends on you, as you see, and on your interest, and you can show this tour to someone else. Some more people would be interested in it. I'm really, really grateful to you. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again, and I wish you great weekend, great weekend, and love from Russia. Love in Russia is really big and wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye. Oh, I love to read it.